Okay. Chapter 5, Lesson 7, Distance on the Coordinates Plane. You need to know how to draw and label the coordinates plane. You need to know this is the first quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant, fourth quadrant. You need to know all points in this quadrant will be negative, negative. The negative on x and the negative on y, because this is negative on x and this is negative on y. You need to know points on this quadrant will be in, positive and negative. Positive and negative. This is negative. You need to know that this will be positive and positive because positive on x, positive on y. And this will be negative positive because negative on x, positive on y. When we label the quadrants, you use the Roman numerals. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. You go the opposite way of the clock. You go counterclockwise. The clock usually goes this way, but you go the opposite way when you're labeling. So this is 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Okay? You need to make sure when you draw the coordinates plane, you label your axis. X is on the horizontal line and Y is on the vertical line. You need to know from the origin down, these will be negative. From the origin left, this will be negative. From the origin up, positive. From the origin right, positive. Okay? So these are things you need to know before we start the lesson. How to label a point. You go first on X from the point. You write that number. You go back to the point and go to Y and write that number. So that's how you label the point. That's the starting part. So you will be given a coordinate plane with points. So I drew this line. The question will come just with the points and the question, find the distance between A and B. So with my ruler, I joined A to B. Okay? And I noticed that my line is diagonal. Because my line is diagonal, I can't count the spaces. I have to solve for this distance for me to find the distance between A and B. Okay? Now, think about this as a lane. Think about this as Dubai. I want to find the distance from a lane to Dubai without driving. So I've been given a map. So I find where a lane is on the map and where Dubai is on the map and I join them. So my line from a lane to Dubai is diagonal. So I can't count. I can't say this is 1 box, 2 box. No, because it's diagonal, I have to do some other things. So since I know this is A and B, I can go to A to B this way, but I can also go horizontally and then I go vertically. So this point here, I am going to call it C. Now I want to label my points. This is -9, -6. How do I know? From here, I went to -9. From here, I'm going to -6. That's how I labeled A. Now let's label C. C will be 3, -6. 3, -6. And then let's label A, 3, 7. Okay? Now, so I need to know what is the distance from A to C. This distance I need to know. So from -9 to +3 is how many spaces? So I can count because it's horizontal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So A to C, I can draw a smaller triangle. This is A, this is B, this is C. A to C is 12. Then I need to go this way. Remember, you will use a ruler. Don't do what I'm doing. See how I am counting? I am labeling the spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So from C to B is 13, and I need to find this side, because that's the side the question told me to find. Okay. Another way I can find 12 is I see 6 and negative 6 and negative 6 is the same. I don't need that. I'll only subtract negative 9 with 3. So negative 9 minus 3 should give me negative 12. I will use the positive number because distance will never be negative. Okay? Or I will say I will find the absolute value. So if I find the absolute value of negative 9, subtracting 3, I will get absolute value of negative 12. Absolute value of negative 12 will be equal to positive 12. Okay? Because remember, distance will never be negative. Absolute value will never be negative. So what's another way of me doing this? 3 and 3 are the same. I don't need them. So I'll use these ones that are different. So we'll do the absolute value of 7 minus negative 6, which will give me absolute value of 13, which is 13. So that's why I got. So two ways. Either you count or you do absolute value. Okay? This you learned in grade 7. Absolute value you learned in grade 7. Alright. So now I know that this is 12 and I know this is 13 and I know this is a 90-degree angle over here because my horizontal and my vertical line are perpendicular. And when we say perpendicular lines meet, they make a 90-degree angle. So what have I drawn? A right triangle. If I want to find A, B, if I want to find this line, I know this is small a and I know this is small c and this is my 90-degree angle. So this has to definitely be C. I am going to use the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals to C squared. So my A is 12 squared plus 13 squared equals to C squared. 144 plus 169 equals to C squared. 4 plus 9 is 13. 4 plus 6 is 10, plus 1 is 11, and this is 3. So I can do 144, 169, 13 carry 1, 10, 11, 313 equals to C squared. Then I find the square root of both sides. So square root of 313 this will give me a decimal because it's not a perfect square. 17.69. So 17.69 equals to C. How do I know I'm correct? This line should be bigger than this two. That is one reason I know I am correct. Okay? And the answer should not be very far from these two numbers. Not very, very far. Okay? So then I answer my question in a complete sentence. Line AB, or the distance from A to B, is 17.69 units. I don't know what the units are because they didn't tell me whether to use centimeters or kilometers or inches. So I will write units. And there is my answer. Okay? When you have a line on top of this, it means this is line from line A to B. Okay? Now, let us do the same question a different way. Here we have used the Pythagoras theorem. Now we're going to use the same question using the distance formula. So we know that A is -9, -6. And we know that B is 3, 7. And its question says find the distance between the 2 points. So step 1 would be to label x1, y1, x2, y2. That is step 1. Step 2 will be, now you're going to use the distance formula. So you will say, using the distance formula. The distance formula says d equals the square root, d meaning distance, x1 minus x2 squared plus y1 minus y2 squared. The brackets are important. The square is important. The plus is important. You minus inside the bracket. Okay? That is the distance formula. If you write it wrongly, that's your problem. Okay? Now, according to the distance formula, this is your hypotenuse, which we call C. This is your small a. Okay? And this is your b squared. So you're following the Pythagoras theorem. And then remember, you put it in a square root because you're finding C. Okay? You have to remember that. So the question will ask if there's is there a relationship between the distance formula and the Pythagorean formula? Your answer should be yes, because C stands for D in the distance formula. A squared is found by x1 minus x2 squared, and b squared is found by y1 minus y2 squared. Okay? And then you will add, and then you will find the square root. This will help you find the C, the hypotenuse. Use the formula. Use the vocabulary. These two are called the hypotenuse. So now the hypotenuse has a new name, the distance formula. Here A has a new name, x1 minus x2. Here B has a new name, y1 minus y2. Remember that, okay? So now let's use this to solve. X1 is -1 minus 3 squared plus -6 minus 7 squared. Okay? This is the square root of 12 squared, -12 squared. -9 minus 3 is -12 plus -13 squared. Okay? D is -12 times -12 plus -13 times -13. Okay? Remember, square means multiply the same number by itself. A negative times a negative is a positive. That is why I told you distance will never be negative. A negative times a negative is a positive. 12 times 12 is 144. A negative times a negative is a positive. 13 times 13 is 169. So D equals the square root of 313. And we did it over there on the other calculator. So D equals to 17.69. And that is the same as C over here. See? And that's why I told you, whatever you got, that's how you check. You either do the Pythagorean theorem and then you check using the distance formula, or you do the distance formula and then you check using the Pythagorean theorem. Your answer should be the same. C is 17.69, D is 17.69. If one of them is wrong, that means you did something wrong. So use one to check the other. So that's what this lesson is about. Okay? Whether these numbers are decimals or these numbers are fractions, this is the rule you follow. Label x1, x2, x1, y1, x2, y2, subtract the x's, subtract the y's, square them. After you square them, you add. After you add, you square root. That will give you the D. So this is what the distance formula is. So the question can come as points. The question can come on the graph. So you need to know what you're going to do. Again, use the distance formula to check the Pythagorean formula. Use the Pythagorean theorem to check the distance formula. And that is what lesson 7 is about. Okay? That is what lesson 7 is about, nothing else.